Dodgers rob the Twins at the fence of a tying home run. Another loss pushes the Twins off the fence about whether to sell their rental players, that is. So if you want to know what the trade deadline will bring, you better get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Imperial Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe where applicable. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer who has never been traded, but I have written on Deadline. It's not the same thing, but it is stressful. I'm also a BBWA member and a Hall of Fame voter. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warne, who we're not going to sell off at the deadline, no matter what Twitter says. Brandon was a Twins fan who became a Twins writer, and now he's both. You can find his work at the Access Twins newsletter and mine periodically at Zone Coverage. On the podcast today, the Twins' recent failures at Coors Field and Dodger Stadium have stoked full-on speculation about what kind of nice trades Derek Falvey and Jeremy Zoll will conduct, or concoct, as it's written, with a little over a week to go before the deadline. So we will look at who might be up for trade, what the Twins might get based on recent history. And I think we're probably going to take even a more direct look at this in future shows, focusing on individual players. But we're going to warm up to it. But first, we want to let you know something, that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. So get to FanDuel.com right now and start FanDueling. So, Brandon, where would you put yesterday's loss on either the heartbreak scale or the disappointment scale? When it's Festa versus Ohtani, you don't necessarily expect victory, but kind of hoping coming out of the Rockies series that they'd be able to pick one up. And I mean, Ohtani certainly looked beatable as a pitcher in the time he was in there, and Dustin May put a bunch of people on base. The Twins did not hit with runners in scoring position, which sometimes, I mean, any team can go through that, but it seems like the Twins go through it a lot periodically. And then Carlos Correa comes up in the ninth inning, hits a ball deep to center, but it was pulled back by James Outman. It's a funny name for an outfielder who's got huge feet, by the way. He's got enormous feet. I think it would have been a home run had it gone over. Where are we on the misery index after that one?
About an 8.5, I'd say, just because our good friend Cy Louie posted some data from, I don't remember who, one of the data crunching Twitter accounts that showed that was like the most unlucky out of the entire night, and of the 10 hardest hit balls. I don't remember what the criteria were. It was the highest one that ended up in an out, and like the top 6 were all extra base hits or something like that. And his was something like 4th. So it just felt like Carlos Correa's season in a nutshell. He's as soon as he gets going, gets that OPS over 700, which is not exactly a high bar to clear for a guy like that. Then he has, a tough little stretch here, and that batted ball. I mean, since I watched it on game day and then on TV, I knew it wasn't going out, but it was still like, what's going to happen here? Because there was another play earlier on where it said in play outs, and it was a single, but that was when Bader came up firing for the plate. And so part of me likes that I know what's going to happen beforehand, is kind of a spoiler alert. But even still, it was like just another thing for the Twins to fall by the wayside, to be another thing where lamentable. There was a graph out by, I think it was Thomas Nestico, on teams' combined WAR from hitters and pitchers. And the Twins were, I think, 13th or 14th, with the Brewers one spot ahead or below. Brewers have the best record in baseball as of last night. But it was just kind of like, yep, Twins have enough good hitting, they have enough good pitching, and they can never, ever seem to put it together. And that play right there, absolutely crushed the ball into most other places in the stadium. It's a home run, but he hit it to just the wrong spot, to just the wrong guy. You almost become numb to it as a Minnesota sports watcher, especially as a Twins watcher here in the last 2 years. And I don't know. I mean, expecting to beat the Dodgers after you lost 2 or 3 to the Rockies, maybe that was too much. But they gave him a challenge. And like in the Rockies series, they had a couple games where they loaded the bases up a bunch against Senzatella and against Freeland and against even Marquez. They just didn't push enough of them across, and that's been the case all year. The Twins have, sorry to be rambling here, but the lowest OPS in MLB with the bases loaded by more than 100 points as of last I checked, and it was like 482. Like their inability to come up in spots like that and actually do something needs to be investigated.
Well, I mean, we are investigative reporters, if nothing else. Right. But Royce Lewis had 3 hits. His rolling expected weighted runs created, or not runs created, but not WBA, whatever it's called.
Weighted base average?
Yes, it's like at a career
that.
high. It's like at a career high right now. So, the results should be coming for him. Although in his hot streak lately, I did notice that his slugging was like 470, 480, 490, something like that. It's still, for a hot streak, that isn't that high.
It's like a Correa hot streak from earlier in the year where it's not enough extra base hits. Though 5 hits in his last 2 games has raised his OPS. I believe it's 82 points. So at this point in the year, even with the time he's missed, 82 points in 2 games is crazy.
A lot. And it also sort of tells us to not put too much stake into the numbers. I mean, the number, though, that people look at is the standings column. And they're in 6th place now for the wild card. Now, that's misleading. And, you talk about, well, I don't like their chance. I saw this take online, and the person was like, the thing that bothers me about the Twins right now is that they got to climb over so many teams. Well, that's true. And being technically true is the best kind of true. But it's also, it's still just July 22nd. If it were August 22nd,
yeah,
I'd say, certainly September 22nd, I'd say that has a lot more relevance. A lot of these teams are the Royals, the Guardians say they're going to sell. I don't think, unless the Twins also sell a bunch of people, and it would have to be something like Castro, Coulomb, and name a third guy, Bader.
Yeah.
If they did that, and then kind of sank in the standings, then fine, whatever. But, short of doing something like that, I still don't think the Twins are going to be out of this until the end. It's just nobody hardly ever is out of it until at the end. It's just the White Sox of the world who are too far back, and they're playing great again. Somehow they swept the Pirates and now have beaten the Rays once. So maybe they're awakening from their slumber. But I just, we're going to talk about the trading deadline and what they could bring in. And I've got a Athletic article about, well, what happened last year at the trade deadline, not just with the Twins, but with actually nothing happened, but with the entire league.
The deadline is a casualty of Manfred ball, right? I mean,
sure. No, it's true. It's true. I don't know if that means the deadline should be later or sooner. Maybe sooner. Maybe the trade deadline used to be actually
it's August 15th for a long time, wasn't it?
Well, it used to be June. I mean, when I was a teenager, it was June 15th. And imagine that, you really had to get your ducks in a row early.
I don't like that. Back then too, like with so few playoff spots, that was AL, NL pennants face each other than the World Series. That was until 90.
2 divisions in each league.
Until 94, which was the year we didn't even have it. Funnily enough, when they switched out to 6 divisions. I think later is the way to go. But what was wrong with the waiver deadline? I thought that was
we ask this question every year now. The thing that was wrong with the waiver deadline was the players didn't like it because of the psych tricks it performs on the players. They didn't like the uncertainty so late in the season of, well, am I going to be on waivers and move here in late August? So
what about August 15th?
They negotiated that out.
Yeah,
yeah.
How about July 15 for the trade deadline or the All-Star break? Like the All-Star break, the end of the All-Star break is the end of the deadline, and then there's a waiver a month later. I think that would be the way to go.
Did you see a story about Manfred bringing up the possibility of adding another All-Star game? Or did I imagine that?
Yeah, they used to do that though, didn't they? Was it
They did for a few years.
2 years in the 40s?
1960 to 64, something
60s.
like that. They did too. Yes.
Okay.
And it wasn't I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was a success, but I can't imagine. It's just that just sounds like a really not well thought out idea to make extra money.
So
like,
you remember
we can have another All-Star break. It's great. We could just double our revenue.
Do you remember
that's how that works?
The Guardians down in Goodyear, when they changed their name, dropped the IND and put the GUAR up, and they could repurpose the signs that say this time it matters and have it say this time it matters less. Because
well, they would say more though. They wouldn't say less. They would say more because it's twice as many All-Star games.
That means it matters less because I say it matters less because people will care less if there's.
I mean, you're right. You're right. But what I'm saying is they're not going to say that.
No, they won't.
We're going to take our first break here, and then when we come back, we'll talk more about the trade deadline, which is in about 9 days.
Well, you know what doesn't have a trade deadline is if you are in the skilled trades, you can get the supplies you need from Supply House. That is the site made for the skilled trades like plumbing, HVAC, electrical work. It's the reliable way to order your products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. So if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service from the best folks in the game. And for trade pros, nice trade pros, Falvey, looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and it's now your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5, that's Sam Horn 5, for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Locked On Twins has returned for our second segment, Tuesday, July 22nd. 2025 Common Era, or Anno Domini if you're old school. So I was looking at last year at the trade deadline because we're seeing a lot of stories. Now, I think these stories have a purpose, or maybe a dual purpose, where the Twins are like, we're not playing very well right now, and they might make some trades, and we're kind of worried because I've never been traded before, and I don't want this to be my fault. I want to compete and blah, blah, blah. So I think the stories that we see in the paper and the electronic paper about these deals, specifically with the Twins, it's just a motivation, like they need more to play better here in the last 8 or 9 games before the trade deadline.
8, yep.
So they don't so in case there aren't any trades, they go into the trade deadline, any sell-off trades, in case there aren't any, they go into August on a roll and possibly, thinking they're still in it, which they are, I mean, mathematically. Mm-hmm. So it serves that purpose, but it also sort of gets us ready for, what might happen if they moved Harrison Bader or Willie Castro or Danny Coulomb Joe Ryan probably isn't going. The latest thing on Joe Ryan, John Heyman had today, either the New York Post or on Twitter or both, said that the Twins are not going to move Ryan, unless they are blown away. And that's not in the Charles Bronson death wish sense. He means like figuratively, like, wow, that's a lot. I would imagine that it would take something less to move like Duran, and maybe even less to move Castro or Bader. Are you still of the mind that there's almost no way that Joe Ryan is leaving?
I just don't know if there's a farm system that has the pieces that would part with the pieces to actually get something done. And the teams with the pieces don't often have playoff aspirations because they've got a lot of high picks. It's a complicated web that we weave, but the there's been basically a prototype or a general idea that when you trade a starter like this, there have been rentals who've brought back big trade packages. The first one that usually comes to mind for me is CC Sabathia. And I think, did the Brewers do Sabathia and Greinke in back-to-back or like within short order there?
Yeah,
and
it was pretty close back-to-back, yeah.
That was what brought the Royals Lorenzo Cain, and I don't remember who else. Maybe the shortstop, Alcides Escobar.
Yeah, that was that trade, yes.
Yeah, and so there are those trades where very good players switch hands. The CC Sabathia one was less true, unless you have a soft spot in your heart for Matt Laporta, which if I did, I don't anymore. I don't know that I see a combination of a team with a need who's going to do all those things. The team that I think is the wild card with any Twins trade is the one that's across the pavilion or the stadium right now, the Dodgers. The Dodgers have a very good system. It's a lot of guys who are a ways off. They were even mentioning that on the broadcast last night. But if they come calling with some of their top guys, they still have Dalton Rushing, who's pretty dang good prospect, and they've got a few other guys. I mean, maybe that starts a conversation, but I still don't know that you get to the level of Joe Ryan. You maybe get to the level of Jhoan Duran or Griffin Jax, which for whatever reason, I'm just really attached to Jax. I think it might just be because I want to see his season come full circle with his peripherals, and the season that he deserves to have down the stretch would come at a good time for the Twins needing those types of pitching performances. With that said, I mean, if you make a good trade, if you have a good trade come across your desk, I can't begrudge Falvey and his proxy, Jeremy Zoll, for doing something like that. But for me, it kind of begins and ends with the free agents to be, and maybe someone like Brock Stewart, who it's a roll of the dice every time he's out there that he's going to be healthy the next week or two. You know, if someone comes calling with a nice offer for him, I love beef stew, but if you can get a position player prospect you really like or something, you got to think about it.
There's a level of uncertainty with Brock Stewart. We talk about, people bring up Byron Buxton's injury history all the time ad nauseum. Well, then don't trade for him. So I think that's probably how that's going to go. Stewart, I mean, at this point, are the Twins playing with house money, with him, just because we're so late? I'm not sure. One thing I don't know, let me look this up real fast. Where is he in free agency?
Brock Stewart? I would guess he has one more year after this, possibly two, but I think just one. And you've got Coulomb, both of those guys are dice rolls to stay healthy the rest of the way. And you've kind of hammered it all season long. Like, Coulomb's coming up on appearances and innings thresholds that he really hasn't done. So there is that, that's an elephant in the room for a lot of these guys. And if you make a trade, I mean, Willie Castro would probably be the one that's the most disqualifying from saying, we got a good trade, but we don't think we're punting. With that said, if you trade Bader, yeah, he's a very helpful player, but that opens up playing time for Carson McCusker, or if there's another, I'm trying to remember who else is down there. Gabriel Gonzalez is a little ways off yet, but you could theoretically shuffle the deck chairs and still be a pretty respectable club down the stretch. And all it's going to take to contend in the AL this year is respectable. So there may be room to make a couple moves that's not completely dismissing the contention window or the contention ability. I'm just not sure that I want to see them kind of go with a half measure. Either move all three of those guys or move none of them. And I err on the side of move none of them. The AL is pretty weak this year. Just stay the course.
Peyton Neal's playing a little outfield for St. Paul.
Is he really? I hadn't noticed that. So that I thought about bringing him up. And I don't mean in the sense of from the minor league.
You making the transaction?
Yeah. Austin Martin too. I mean, I don't know how he's been hitting. I haven't looked lately, but if you want a little extra help from the right side and you're not using Deshaun Kiersey more than once a week, that's an option too.
This brings to mind, I mean, we're hitting the trade deadline hard, but this conversation talking about who would play if they moved X. You know, I'm thinking about, well, where's Luke Keaschall going to play when he comes up? They're limited though, because I don't think you could put him in the outfield because of his throwing arm.
He's not even playing the field. He's DHing again.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if you could play him in the field anywhere right now. So
yeah,
I don't know how much that helps. Do you bring back what are we doing with Brooks Lee? I mean, how long is this slump going to go? I worry about. I feel like Lee might be one of those guys that maybe they should have traded. Is his value in that respect gone? Is he post hype now? I don't know.
500 plate appearance. He's hard to say. I mean, it's a conversation to be had. I don't know that it's.
He's just shown some signs all along that, you know, Keith Law said he would be among many analysts who would be shocked and surprised if he doesn't hit. But as a pro, he has shown signs that he might not hit very well. That he's got either there's a hole in his swing or lack of power at some point.
Yeah.
He had that weird hitting streak where it was like, it was 18 or 19 games or whatever, but was it all that impressive?
Yeah, he only bumped his OPS like 10, 15 points or something like that.
So when you look at guys like that, you look at guys like Lee, you look at Trevor Larnach or Matt Wallner Trevor Larnach's having a pretty good year.
Yeah.
For someone who faces right-handed pitching. He's been absolutely abysmal against lefties. And I like to think, I don't know. I'd like to think that they haven't really had a big choice in playing him often against lefties. I feel like if they trusted McCusker more or Austin Martin more, that maybe they would get those at bats or somebody else would. Maybe just because right field Wallner has been so iffy, you can't just use Bader as a straight up platoon.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that I would blow the team up, but maybe some of these ancillary side piece guys, maybe make some shuffling going on.
Yeah.
Move some guys, keep Ryan and Duran and Jax and the core, but maybe the outer core guys, maybe you can shuffle some things up and put yourself in a better position next year.
If Lee doesn't hit for power, is he functionally a different player offensively than Austin Martin?
I mean, he's hit a little better than Austin Martin has, but there's a weakness there. And contrary to this, like you move him and then you don't have a backup shortstop.
Yeah.
He's been able to play defensively better than I thought he would. And he still makes a lot of mistakes defensively, but certainly at shortstop, I've been surprised. And if Correa doesn't go, then who do you got? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea how Peyton Eales is playing at short.
Right.
Do you want Fitzgerald back?
He just came off the IL. Yeah, not particularly.
I don't know. So there's a functionality issue there. And there's an issue with us taking our last break, which we're going to do now, and then come back and talk more about the trade deadline and whatever else with the Twins. They're great.
Well, sports and summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every moment and every game even more exciting. You're already watching the game, so think about it. How could you be even more engaged and make it a little more thrilling? That's where FanDuel comes in. You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburnt at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups. I have not loved Twins Dodgers. I thought that Twins Rockies would go a little better. Twins Nationals could be another fun one, and Twins obviously play better at home. So something to think about here with the Nationals and Red Sox before the deadline. So that could be a fun one to take a look at. And the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. And the best part, it's easy to use, pays out quickly, and even makes regular season games feel like must-watch events. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Final segment of Locked On Twins. Last year at the trade deadline, I was looking for deals like when we talk about, well, like what would a Joe Ryan trade maybe look like? Or what would a Danny Coulomb trade look like? Or Harrison Bader. That's a guy too. There aren't a lot of great comparisons. It's because you're looking at, in Joe Ryan's case, he's still 2 more years until free agency. So it's not a rental in that exact case. So it's not like trading for Yusei Kikuchi or something, who was an all-star this year. Yeah. I did see the Marlins, the Orioles made a horrendous trade at the time.
Yeah.
Trevor Rogers they acquired, who is pitching better now, but certainly wasn't last year, for Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby. Connor Norby, Minnesota area product. He's hurt, but Stowers is an all-star and is very blonde and looks like he's going to hit. So that didn't quite work, but I think that is where those were still that looked like that's a pretty good deal for the Marlins, getting those guys for Rogers.
Yeah.
Who was kind of iffy at the time. Joe Ryan's much better than that. If I don't think there's not those guys you talked about, like the Dodgers prospects, whoever they are, they're so far down in minor league ball that I don't think we can compare. But in terms of the quality of player that you're getting back, that might be the deal that the Twins are sort of hoping they may be here. And they could still even say no to that. But it would be something like that. Stowers and Norby, they're not they weren't like top prospects because the Orioles had other guys who were top prospects.
Gunnar
but
and
yes. And you're not going to get those guys. So there's that.
Yeah.
And when I look at like Bader, last year, Jesse Winker was moved, and it was for a guy who I've still not heard of. Mets acquired Jesse Winker, and it doesn't, he was going to be a free agent after last year. He was playing really well until I think his back started to bother him. So Mets acquired Jesse Winker from Nationals for minor league right-hander Tyler Stewart, who I don't know who that is still to this moment. And I sort of follow the minor leagues, and I don't know who that is. So, if you're going to move Bader and you think, well, maybe we can get him later, we can get him in free agency, come back, kind of reconstitute the team, see what happens. There are issues with Bader's contract, like it's a mutual thing that I think he can opt out of.
Basically, it's a buyout to get what we were thinking would be $3 million paid by a new ownership group instead of the Pohlads, right?
Yeah, right. I think that's right.
If that's the kind of deal though that comes calling for Bader, I have no interest.
I think I would think that you could get more for him.
Maybe, yeah, because his contract is very reasonable.
Right.
I mean, the Twins would probably have to agree to pay the buyout.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well,
can they get like can they use the Manuel Margot money from the Dodgers somehow to get them to pay it? I don't know.
By the way, brief aside, I saw that the Marlins are listening on Edward Cabrera. I'd be all over that. You know that.
That's your guy.
That's my guy.
That's your guy. He's been really good. He did have like an elbow scare the other start, like 2 starts ago. He came out of a start with some kind of pain in his elbow, but he's since been pitching. So, but that's, you're going to run into that when you run into pitchers.
And you throw 98.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I look at the trades that the Athletic has a recent from yesterday. Trade deadline revisited, 2024 trade deadline. So if you subscribe to the Athletic, this is an interesting trade. Yankees acquire infielder Jazz Chisholm from the Marlins for catcher Agustin Ramirez and minor league infielders Abraham Ramirez, relation, probably not, and Jared Cerna. So I don't know about the other Ramirez and Cerna. And I also don't know about Agustin Ramirez's defense long-term, but he's slugging like a long-term answer catcher. And that's the kind of but the Twins aren't trading anybody as dynamic as Willie Castro's not going to get you the next Agustin. Will Willie Castro get you Dalton Rushing?
Doubt it.
I mean,
I doubt it.
I doubt
Duran
it.
might. Duran could.
You would think Duran.
Not Willie. No, I don't think so.
The Dodgers, and they need someone to pitch. And it isn't just started. I mean, they could, I was watching some of their Dodgers fans like salivate over Duran and
then
Jax.
Tanner Scott's arm has an issue in the. I mean,
he's just on the IL today,
and they got Kopech who's out, and they've got who's the guy coming back in the next week? Trinan, and then Yates is not the bastion of health either. So yeah, I mean, if they come call it and say Dalton Rushing, who, I mean, he could be your second catcher as soon as next year, right?
Or perhaps main catcher. I mean, I'm not sure.
Sure, yeah, definitely possible.
The nice thing that the Dodgers have had this year, though, they've had Rushing in the lineup, and he's been competent enough on both sides of the ball that they haven't had to play Will Smith all the time, which has made Will Smith a much, he's got a lot more, in reserve and able to come out and continue to play well late in the season. Yeah, he's a very dangerous player. So, all right, we're going to talk more about the trade deadline in the coming days, but we've whetted your appetite, I'm sure. We want to tell you a couple things, and I actually wanted to mention this before, but we want to make sure that you guys are all subscribed to Locked On Twins, which is us. That way, you don't miss any of the great Twins content that we've got for you, which includes the Twins postcast with Luke Inman live, scary, after the final out of every game. Can you imagine? You get 2 shows for the price of 1, and it's actually all kind of free because there's no there's no slot for change that you put in. This is all free. So this is gratis, Gladys. And finally, also, we want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long, and it's only July. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. For my friend Brandon Warne, I'm Dave Brown. Wishing you all a very pleasant good evening, saying we will. Alexei Casilla, I think it might be his birthday, tomorrow night.